Hello and welcome to round 2 with blue-black summonings. On the play, I'm pretty happy with this. We're going to be leading on Sunken Hollow to have Anticipate Mana on turn 2. Just worth continuously stating the sequencing decisions with the allied color lands because that's one of the bigger parts of them. Just play your hold on to extra basics or Zen lands as long as possible to enable your shadow lands. So my opponent is T-Merge or Marvel based on that start. We're taking a counter. You just need a counter against both of those decks. And after the Vessel reveals a Attune and a Cinderglade, it's just 100% obvious that my opponent's on Marvel. Taking Transgress over Shrivel because it's a guaranteed interactive spell. Whereas my opponent can legitimately get out of Shrivel range. And I opted not to transgress there because I want to have backup in case of a double Marvel out of my opponent. I'm fine with trading Glimmer for negate because it's just going to try to find more action. Again, we're waiting for the ability to have double spell up. Also taking Transgress over a counterspell lets us kind of mix and match and figure out where we want to take the game. This is a pretty clear, just take the cheap counterspell. Even though I want to land, I'll find a land eventually. Negate's just another answer. And here, now that I have negate, I can fire Transgress the Mind off with backup of negate. Again, I don't care about the fight over the negate because that's kind of one of the best cards I could take. I'm just going to try to negate Marvel when it resolves or is cast. So this kind of ended up the same way, only it's better to have this sequence my opponent has a second Marvel. Which they clearly don't based on that. Bottom some lands, draw some spells. And I can play summonings with... It sucks that my hand is all inactive cards to summonings, but I have a Shrivel up for interaction. This is kind of sad that I have to fire the Shrivel on the Hulk, but I can't just... Think about the battlefield. If I let the Hulk resolve and let the negate resolve on the summonings, I just have all removal spells, one spell Shrivel. Like, I don't think that gets me anywhere. I actually have to kill my opponent before they start casting Emrakul's. That's fine because it turns on all my random removal. And this is kind of an interesting combat. So I kind of wanted to leave my opponent with some creatures to cast my spells on. I didn't want to, there's a way I can like make creature, have good blocks, but I do want to actually use all my spells. So I end up going Grasp on the Ishkanah, Essence Extraction on a token, and then double block the Ishkanah to ensure it dies. I don't know if ensuring Ishkanah dies is 100% right, but given the removal and the fact that I mean, like, I'm walking into, like, a grapple or whatever, but given the removal that I have, I think I have to accept that I want to clear the Ishkanah here because I don't have any straight-up answer for it. Kind of just get Emrakul'd. I cast Grasp on a creature so that my opponent eventually just casts the Essence Extraction on something. If I do it the other way around, they can like kill a 3/3 token and not leave me with a 3/3, so I end up with the most possible power. My opponent, I think they mess up the sequencing there, so I gain 3 life off the extraction, but it doesn't really matter. Nice draw of Murder against Emrakul. And we kind of are just getting overrun by our opponent's just general threat density, Emrakul, just better cards against us, even though we have a Summonings on the battlefield. Grapples back Ishkana, and we draw the out, which is, I guess, lucky, but we're still not in a good spot. I could have cast Murder in response to the Marvel on the random token, but if I draw a Ruinous Path, I'd much rather have the Murder back. It's like specifically if I draw that Blighted Fen. My opponent just deploys a million things. We transgress. See that they have now nothing, but we have no action. Sadly, they hit an Emrakul, and this is all for naught. And they do a million things, and I'm just super, super, super dead. It's just completely and utterly comical. All my creatures are dead. All my everything is dead. Oh, look, I can't even cast a spell. Wow, Aetherworks Marvel is fun to play against. Okay, so sideboarding. I sideboarded basically all the obvious stuff. Transgress, Negates, Lost Legacies, additional threats in Dynamo Tower, the Summary Dismissal. And I sideboarded out basically all the removal. I left in a Murder instead of an additional Ruinous Path because I wanted ways to interact. I wanted one way to interact profitably with Torrential Gear Hulk, as well as I wanted to be a little more flexible if my opponent went to like Bristling Hydras or Tireless Trackers. Whereas Ruinous Path is specifically good against Emrakul, but like if my opponent has, it's not even that good because if it's in your hand, it has to like they have to just have Emrakul and you can't have anything, and then you like draw and they can't cast it. It's just such a huge confluence of situations. I just don't want to try to play for. I'd rather not lose other games, I think. Okay, welcome to game 2 against Teamer Marvel. Not a hand. This hand is fine. And I opt to scry and keep a Glimmer because the Anticipate can then be targeted towards land, because Glimmer's my action. Anticipate, take the obvious land. Don't care about that. Not a lot of interesting interplay here. My opponent just casts a bunch of spells that don't matter. And I got a little aggressive with the spell shrivel here because I wanted to ensure it trades for an action spell. And I feel like Vessel is likely to find an action spell that it's hard for me to interact with shrivel. But the problem is that I don't like, in retrospect, leaving myself with only Summary Dismissal for an Ishkana or a Torrential Gear Hulk. So I think that was an incorrect play. If Negate was a Shrivel or a... Negate was literally not Negate, just like Spell Shrivel, Rebuff, just whatever counterspell that could counter anything. I'm perfectly happy firing on the Vessel there. I played Negate over Shrivel in case my opponent doesn't want to fight over it, but they're obviously going to fight. I'm just going to get marbled. Everything's horrible. Very lucky on my part. I think that was this was a bit of a desperation Glimmer. I thought my opponent was pretty far off of reactivating Marvel, so I just was fine tapping out and just wanted to get this to try and get to a hand that can win. But I do have Dismissal. I guess Marvel's an instant, so they don't have to do it at any time. But I think leaving up for Dismissal for a potential Emrakul is kind of nice. Bottom some stuff, get lands to actually advance my board state. They take a Puzzle Knot off of that. And I get Emrakuled, and everything's horrible, and I die a horrible death. nothing is good. Nothing will ever be good again. You know, typical Emrakul stories. Super marginal. Or sorry, they took a world. I had the wrong card. They took a world breaker off the second vessel. That's the reason I did not play the Blighted Fen there, because I did not want it to just get eaten by my opponent's spell. They just get to world break the Blighted Fen. In theory, I have an out here of like summary dismissal the world breaker, draw a spot removal spell for the servant, and then fen my opponent. And instead, I 1 second here. I glimmered, bricked, and died to Emrakul. No Ruinous Path off that glimmer. And yeah, Emrakul's kind of a problem when you can't realistically race your opponent to prevent them from getting to cast it, is the lesson of that match.